Yo, what is up, guys? Ethan here, back with another video, and today I'm going to be giving you my game preview and prediction on the Sun Belt and the SEC Conference Championship games. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. So, if you didn't check out yesterday's video, the Big 12 and the Big 10 preview, go check that out after this one. Link's going to be in the description. And this one is probably going to be a little bit longer, as both of these games are really good. Maybe better than both of the other games I talked about yesterday. Both of these are ranked matchups. And FYI, this is getting recorded before the top 25 is released. Tomorrow or Thursday, the ACC preview will come out, and that will have the official rankings if anything changes. So, we're going to start off with the Sun Belt, as this one really doesn't have as much to talk about. And recently I talked about Coastal Carolina in their huge win versus BYU. I did predict the upset. But this team, they had a trap game last week at Troy. I didn't watch the whole game, but I did watch the last minute. And last few minutes, actually. And Grayson McCall is a future superstar in college football. If he transferred to a team that needs a quarterback, imagine if he went to Purdue. You always use them as an example because they have a good receiver core. He would be a top 5 quarterback in college football, in my opinion. But since he's at Coastal, he really doesn't get as much recognition. He's one of the best game managers in college football, and he's also a redshirt freshman, which is just ridiculous. His passing game is really underrated due to the scheme at Coastal, and that's the scheme they have at Coastal is something unique, and we haven't seen a lot of in college football, and it's definitely going to benefit Coastal in this one. But Grayson McCall is a great quarterback, and that Louisiana defense is going to have a struggle versus them, in my opinion, since BYU's defense is better than Louisiana's. CJ Marable, I'm pretty sure by now he is primarily their running back. They do have 3 running backs in the rotation, but after a great game last week at Troy, I'm pretty sure he's going to be the primary running back for the rest of the season, which is going to be 2 games most likely. And another guy I did not talk about as much in that video is Hiley. He is their top pass catchers. He has 820 yards and 10 touchdowns. And he had a good game last week. I'm pretty sure he had the game-sealing touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, last week. And he is a pretty good wide receiver on that team. And just like I said in the BYU video, their best defensive player is Teron Jackson. He has 8.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles on the season. But I did cover this matchup earlier this year, actually. And I think Louisiana has kind of regressed, to be honest with you. Levi Lewis does not look like the same quarterback like we saw earlier this season. He has 17 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. For granted, he does have 2,128 yards passing, but that's a little bit too much interceptions, if you ask me, by looking at the touchdowns. But for granted, this offense is primarily run heavy. You have 2 great running backs, and Elijah Mitchell, he has 751 yards and 7 touchdowns, and Trey Regis, as he has 660 yards and 9 touchdowns. So they have a dynamic duo, just like Buffalo. I want to talk about them this week if I can, but they have a good running back duo there in Louisiana, and that defense for Coastal may struggle against them. And of course, their primary defensive player is Braylon Trahan, as he leads the team with 4 interceptions. So, looking at this team, I think not only is Coastal better coached, they also have the better team. This is still going to be a close game, just like we saw down in Shreveport earlier this year. I have Coastal Carolina 37-30. I have them winning by 7. But it could be even more of a blowout. Coastal was just getting red hot, and even though Louisiana is still a top 25 team in the country, they do not look as powerful as they were earlier this season. So I think Coastal beats them for the second time this season. And now we're going on to the big game. And if Marco Wilson did not throw away their playoff hopes, pun intended, this game would have decided if Florida's in the playoff, in my personal opinion. But since the cleat got thrown in the air, they have no more shot. So this game is kind of pointless. And if Notre Dame wins, all this is going to do is, if Bama loses, Notre Dame's 1, Bama 2. That's all that's going to happen, I think. This offense for Alabama is just ridiculous. And this whole team is ridiculous with just piles of talent right on that team. Mac Jones, he's having a great year and is a Heisman candidate, as he has 3,321 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. For granted, though, he has one of the best receiver cores in the country, and his fellow wide receiver, Devontae Smith, is a Heisman candidate himself. He has 1,327 yards and 15 touchdowns. But if you just look at the film and these ridiculous catches, he's even better than what the stats say. And that is a ridiculous stat line. And if you ask me, Devontae Smith or Kyle Trask are my Heisman favorites, in my opinion. But this running game for Alabama is really good. They have a lot of depth at the position, but Alabama always has. Their main running back is, of course, Najee Harris, one of the top running backs in the country. He has a little over 1,000 yards and 22 rushing touchdowns. That's just ridiculous for a running back. That offensive line is one of the top in the country as well, even though they have struggled a little bit this year. But that offense is just ridiculous up there, or down there in Alabama. And that defense is really good as well. Christian Barmore, he had a little struggle a little bit early, but he's definitely picked it up and is improving like we all thought he was. That secondary definitely struggled earlier in the year, but as of late, that defense has been unstoppable. Now we're going to Florida, and if it's not Devontae Smith for Heisman, my vote's going to go to Kyle Trask. He has 3,717 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Definitely a better ratio than Levi Lewis, like we talked about earlier. For granted, he does have a way better receiving core. You have the best tight end in all college football in Kyle Pitts, as he has 641 yards and 11 touchdowns. And he did miss a few games, especially last week in the loss versus LSU. You have a great wide receiver in Kadarius Toney, as he leads the team in receiving yards with 831 and also has 9 touchdowns on top of that. And also that defense, besides some from stupid people in the secondary, they have actually a pretty good edge rushing core. Brenton Cox leads the team in sacks with 4, and they have good depth at the position, but that defense has struggled at times, and they can't struggle versus this elite Alabama offense. And if you ask me personally, I think Alabama is just trying to keep the number 1 seed, because they've already locked their place in the playoff already. They can lose this game and they're probably going to go down to 2 at the worst, 3 at the worst, but they are a lock for the playoff. But for Florida, this is going to be for a New Year's Six Bowl, and I think they're going to get it even with a loss. But Alabama's just looked ridiculous all season. I forget the exact stat, but they've outscored their opponents by around 300, which is crazy. So I think Alabama wins this game 49-33. I think Florida's actually going to start off really hot and go up like 14-0 in like the first. But I think after Florida starts off red hot for the first 2 or 3 drives, Alabama is going to completely stop them for the remainder of the game. And they're going to be super close to 50 in my opinion, but I don't think Bama will score 50, but it's definitely going to be close. 49-33 is my final in the SEC Championship. So guys, what is your opinions on the game? Let me know in the comment section below. Tomorrow or Thursday, look out for the ACC Championship preview, as I'm just going to do one video on that, and potentially even more like the Mountain West, the MAC, the Pac-12, all those conferences. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, subscribe, and like always, have a good day. Peace out.